My name is Clara Bennett, 34 years old, and I work as a financial advisor in Boston. I thought I had everything figured out, especially when it came to helping my niece Mia achieve her dreams of becoming a doctor. After my parents passed away, I promised to fund her college education, creating a special account that would secure her future. But last month, I discovered something that shattered my trust completely. The education fund I set up for Mia had been emptied, and the truth behind where that money went broke my heart. Before I continue my story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. If you've ever felt betrayed by family, hit that subscribe button, because this journey might resonate with you. Growing up in our small Massachusetts town of Millfield, life was simple but fulfilling. Our parents worked hard to provide for my sister Brooke and me, instilling values of responsibility and education above all else. Dad was a high school math teacher, and Mom worked as a nurse at the local hospital. They weren't wealthy by any means, but they managed to save enough for us to attend state colleges without crushing debt. I was always the responsible one, 5 years older than Brooke, looking out for her from the time she was born. Even as children, our personalities were complete opposites. I saved my allowance for books and future goals, while Brooke spent hers immediately on whatever caught her attention that week. As teenagers, I worked part-time jobs to save for college, while Brooke focused on her social life. Our parents often joked that I was born 40 years old, already planning my retirement. After college, I moved to Boston and built my career in financial advising. I was good at it too, helping others secure their futures while steadily building my own wealth. Meanwhile, Brooke struggled to find her path, changing majors 3 times before finally completing her teaching degree. She met James during her final year of college, and they married quickly after graduation. 9 months later, Mia was born. Brooke and James settled in our hometown, with Brooke teaching elementary school while James worked construction jobs. Their marriage was tumultuous from the start, with frequent arguments about money. James wanted to save for the future, while Brooke preferred immediate gratification. I lost count of how many times Brooke called me in tears, asking to borrow money for unexpected expenses that always seemed to coincide with sales at her favorite stores. Our lives changed forever 5 years ago, when our parents were killed in a car accident on their way home from their anniversary dinner. The tragedy hit us both hard, but affected us differently. I threw myself into work finding solace in helping others secure their financial futures. Brooke, however, seemed to spiral further into her spending habits, as if trying to fill the void with material things. James finally reached his breaking point 2 years after our parents died. He filed for divorce, citing Brooke's financial infidelity as the main reason. She had secretly maxed out 3 credit cards and taken a second mortgage on their home without his knowledge. The divorce left Brooke a single mother to 13-year-old Mia, with significant debt and only her teaching salary to support them. Throughout all this turmoil, Mia remained remarkably focused and determined. She inherited my practical nature, rather than her mother's impulsiveness. Even at 13, she spoke clearly about her dream of becoming a doctor, inspired by my mother, who had always encouraged her interest in medicine. Mia maintained perfect grades despite the chaos of her parents' divorce, often studying late into the night after helping care for her younger brother Tommy, who was only 7 when their parents split up. During a visit home for Thanksgiving 3 years ago, I found Mia crying in what used to be our parents' bedroom. She had just received early acceptance letters from several prestigious high school science programs, but overheard Brooke telling a friend they couldn't afford the application fees for colleges, let alone tuition. I still remember sitting beside her on the bed that night, the same bed where our mother used to read us stories. The moonlight streamed through the window, as Mia confessed her fears that her dreams would remain just that, dreams. "College is so expensive, Aunt Clara," she whispered, clutching her acceptance letters. "Mom says we'll never afford it, especially medical school. Maybe I should just look into community college programs instead." Something broke inside me at that moment. Here was this brilliant, dedicated young woman about to give up on her dreams because of financial constraints while I had the means to help. I made a promise that night that I would ensure she could attend any college she was accepted to. The look of hope that bloomed on her face is something I'll never forget. The next day, I met with my personal financial advisor and set up an education fund for Mia with an initial deposit of $20,000. I arranged to make quarterly deposits of $5,000 for 3 years, which would accumulate to $60,000 by the time she graduated high school, enough to cover a significant portion of her undergraduate education. Since Mia was a minor, Brooke had to be listed as a co-trustee on the account. I was careful to structure it as an education fund, with restrictions on withdrawals requiring documentation that the money was being used for educational purposes. I trusted Brooke to handle local expenses like application fees, test prep courses, and campus visits while I managed the quarterly deposits from Boston. For 3 years, I faithfully made those deposits, receiving quarterly statements that showed the account growing steadily. Mia would call me excitedly about her college preparation courses, the campus tours she and Brooke were taking, and her improving SAT scores. Everything seemed to be going according to plan. I felt proud that I was honoring our parents' memory by ensuring their grandchild would receive the education they valued so highly. Little did I know that those statements showing a healthy balance were hiding a betrayal that would shake the foundation of our family forever. Life in Boston kept me incredibly busy. As a senior financial advisor at my firm, I worked 50 to 60-hour weeks, managing portfolios for high net worth clients and often traveling for conferences and meetings. Despite the distance and my hectic schedule, I made a point to stay involved in Mia's life, calling her at least once a week to check on her progress. Last fall, as Mia entered her senior year of high school, our conversations began to change. When I asked about college applications, her answers became increasingly vague. "Oh, I'm still researching schools," she would say, or "I'm working on my personal statement," without sharing specific details about submissions or deadlines. At first, I attributed her evasiveness to teenage privacy or the stress of senior year, but during a call in November, something she said caught my attention. "I wish I could have gone to that Princeton information session last weekend," she mentioned casually. "A lot of kids from my AP biology class went." "Princeton information session?" I questioned, confused. "I thought you were going to that. We talked about it last month, and I sent money for the train tickets." There was a long pause before Mia responded. "Mom said we couldn't afford the trip right now. She said maybe next time." This made no sense. I had specifically transferred money for that trip, along with funds for several other college preparation activities. When I gently pressed for more information, Mia quickly changed the subject, asking about my latest work project. After our call, I found myself scrolling through Brooke's social media accounts, something I rarely did given our different lifestyles and my limited free time. What I saw left me puzzled. There were photos of Brooke at expensive restaurants in New York City, sporting what appeared to be a new designer handbag that I recognized from advertisements as costing well over $1,000. Another post showed her and Tommy at a luxury resort weekend getaway, just 2 hours from our hometown. How was a single mother on a public school teacher's salary affording these luxuries? Brooke had always struggled financially, even calling me occasionally for help with unexpected expenses, like car repairs or medical bills. Now suddenly she was dining at restaurants, where entrees cost more than a day's wages for her. The following weekend, I called Brooke directly, trying to keep my tone casual. "I saw your photos from Le Bernardin," I mentioned, referring to the high-end restaurant in Manhattan she had posted about. "That's quite a splurge for a weekend trip." Brooke laughed lightly. "Oh, I got a bonus at work for heading up the new literacy program. Thought I'd treat myself for once. You're always saying I should reward myself for achievements, right?" The explanation seemed plausible. Teachers did occasionally receive bonuses for taking on extra responsibilities, and I had indeed encouraged Brooke to celebrate her professional successes. Still, something felt off about the frequency of these treats appearing on her social media. "And how about Mia's college visits? I know I sent money for the Princeton trip, but she mentioned you couldn't make it." "Oh, that." Brooke sighed dramatically. "Princeton is probably a reach school anyway. The train tickets were more expensive than expected, and there was this scheduling conflict with Tommy's soccer tournament. We're focusing on more realistic options closer to home." Again, her explanation made some sense. Princeton was indeed highly competitive, and logistics with a younger child could be complicated. Yet Mia had the grades and extracurriculars to aim for Ivy League schools, and we had discussed this strategy many times. "Maybe I should come visit soon. I suggested. It's been a while, and I'd love to help Mia with her applications in person. There was the slightest hesitation before Brooke responded enthusiastically, almost too enthusiastically. That would be wonderful. You know we always love having you. Work has been crazy lately, but maybe after the holidays? After hanging up, my unease grew. The education fund had been established specifically to prevent Mia from limiting her college choices due to financial concerns. If Brooke was redirecting those funds or not using them as intended, I needed to know. I continued noticing troubling patterns over the next couple of months. Mia mentioned cancellations of SAT prep courses I'd paid for. Brooke posted photos of a new living room set and kitchen appliances. When I received the next quarterly statement for the education fund in January, I noted that while the balance looked appropriate, there were several withdrawals labeled broadly as educational expenses, without specific details. By February, my concern had grown into genuine worry. Mia should have been submitting applications to multiple schools by now, yet she remained vague about the process. Meanwhile, Brooke's social media showcased more weekend getaways and expensive purchases. I decided I couldn't address this effectively from a distance, making an excuse about a business trip that would bring me close to our hometown. I told Brooke I'd like to stop by for a few days. Her response was welcoming, but tinged with what seemed like nervousness. She mentioned the guest room was a bit of a mess and suggested I might be more comfortable at the hotel near the interstate. Her suggestion only strengthened my resolve to see firsthand what was happening. I booked my trip for the following week, determined to uncover the truth about the education fund and ensure Mia's future wasn't being compromised. The 4-hour drive from Boston to my hometown gave me plenty of time to rehearse conversations in my head. Maybe there was a reasonable explanation for everything. Perhaps Brooke had become more financially responsible than I gave her credit for. Maybe she had received a significant raise or inheritance I didn't know about. These hopeful thoughts evaporated when I pulled into Brooke's driveway and saw a brand new SUV parked there, the sticker still visible in the window. It was at least a $40,000 vehicle, far beyond what a teacher's salary could reasonably support. Brooke greeted me with a warm hug, looking more polished than I remembered. Her hair was freshly highlighted, her nails professionally manicured, and she wore designer jeans I recognized from my own shopping trips to Newbury Street in Boston. "Welcome home, sis," she exclaimed, ushering me inside. "Mia's still at debate practice, and Tommy's at a friend's house. They'll be back for dinner." The interior of the house looked dramatically different from my last visit 8 months ago. New hardwood flooring had replaced the worn carpet. The living room featured a sectional sofa I recognized from a high-end furniture store, along with a large smart TV mounted on the wall. The kitchen had been updated with stainless steel appliances and quartz countertops. "Wow, you've done a lot with the place," I commented, trying to keep my tone neutral. "These are major renovations." Brooke beamed with pride. "Do you love it? I finally decided to update Mom and Dad's old stuff. This house needed to reflect our style. You know, living with outdated furniture was depressing me." "It must have cost a fortune," I observed carefully. "How did you manage it on your teaching salary?" "Oh, creative budgeting," she said dismissively, opening the refrigerator to retrieve a bottle of expensive champagne. "Plus, I've been doing some online tutoring on the side. Let's celebrate your visit." Throughout the afternoon, Brooke chatted animatedly about everything except Mia's college plans. When I tried steering the conversation in that direction, she would quickly change the subject to her renovations, Tommy's soccer achievements, or neighborhood gossip. Mia arrived home around 6, looking more mature than when I'd seen her last summer. She hugged me tightly, whispering, "I've missed you so much, Aunt Clara." There was something in her voice, a note of desperation perhaps, that heightened my concern. During dinner at a surprisingly upscale restaurant, I asked Mia directly about her college applications. "So which schools did you end up applying to? The deadline for most places was in January, right?" Mia glanced quickly at her mother before responding. "I'm still working on some applications for schools with rolling admissions. It's been really busy with debate team and everything." "But what about those early decision schools we discussed, Harvard, Johns Hopkins, Columbia?" "Their deadlines have passed." Mia stared at her plate. "We decided those weren't the right fit after all." "We realized it makes more sense for Mia to start at community college." Brooke interjected smoothly. She can transfer to a 4-year school later. Much more economical, right, Mia? Mia nodded without making eye contact. This was completely at odds with our previous discussions and Mia's ambitions. Something was very wrong. Back at the house, I waited until everyone had gone to bed before opening my laptop. With shaking hands, I logged into the education fund account, something I hadn't done directly in months, typically just glancing at the quarterly statements. The screen loaded, and I felt physically ill. The account balance showed just $5,231.76, a fraction of what should have been there. According to my calculations with my regular deposits and modest interest, there should have been approximately $60,000 in the account. I scrolled through the transaction history in disbelief. Over the past 18 months, there had been dozens of withdrawals, ranging from $500 to $5,000, all labeled vaguely as education expense, but without specific details. The most recent withdrawal for $3,000 had occurred just 2 weeks ago. My chest tightened as panic set in. Where had all that money gone? It certainly wasn't going toward Ivy League application fees or college visits. I felt dizzy with betrayal sitting there in the guest room of my childhood home, staring at the decimated account that represented my niece's future. Sleep was impossible that night. I lay awake cycling through shock rage and profound disappointment. How could Brooke do this? What would I tell Mia? How could I salvage her college prospects with most deadlines already passed? Around 3 in the morning, I quietly made my way to Brooke's home office in what used to be our father's study. Her laptop was on the desk, and in my agitated state, I felt no qualms about opening it. The password was predictably Mia Tommy 1, the same one she'd used for years. What I found confirmed my worst fears. In her photos folder were albums titled Hawaii 2023, Florida Spring Break, and Caribbean Cruise. The timestamps aligned perfectly with major withdrawals from the education fund. I found online receipts for the furniture, the kitchen renovation designer clothing purchases, and even a planned European vacation for the upcoming summer with first-class tickets to Paris. My sister had stolen from her own daughter's future to fund a lifestyle she couldn't afford. As the reality sank in, I closed the laptop and returned to my room, a plan already forming in my mind. Tomorrow, once Mia left for school, Brooke and I would have the confrontation that could not be avoided. Morning arrived after a sleepless night. I sat at the kitchen table nursing a cup of coffee waiting for the kids to leave for school. Tommy darted out first, grabbing a granola bar and yelling goodbye. Mia followed more slowly, giving me a concerned look as she noticed my exhausted appearance. "Are you okay, Aunt Clara?" she asked softly. "Just tired from the drive," I lied, forcing a smile. "Have a good day at school, sweetheart. Maybe we can talk more this afternoon." She nodded, seeming relieved at the suggestion. "I'd like that. Maybe just us." "Just us," I promised. After Mia left, Brooke bustled into the kitchen in workout clothes, pouring herself coffee. "I'm heading to yoga in 20 minutes. Want to join me? They have guest passes." I placed my coffee mug down carefully, then pulled out my laptop and opened it to display the education fund statement. "I think we need to talk about this first," I said, my voice steady, despite the anger churning inside me. "Can you explain why there's only $5,000 left in Mia's college fund?" The color drained from Brooke's face. She froze coffee pot suspended in midair before slowly setting it down. "You checked the account?" Her voice was small defensive. "Of course I checked the account. It's my money that I've been depositing for Mia's future. Money that's almost entirely gone now." I pulled out printed copies of the bank statements I had made earlier that morning. $60,000, Brooke. Almost all of it withdrawn over the last year and a half. Brooke's expression shifted from shock to indignation with remarkable speed. "Those were legitimate educational expenses." "Really? Because I also found these." I laid out screenshots I had taken from her laptop, showing the vacation photos and online receipts. "Hawaii isn't an educational expense. Neither is a Caribbean cruise or a kitchen renovation." Brooke's face flushed with anger. "You went through my computer. How dare you invade my privacy like that? How dare I?" My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. "How dare you steal from your daughter's future? I trusted you with that money, Brooke. It was for Mia's college education, not for you to play rich housewife." "You don't understand what it's like," Brooke snapped back, pacing the kitchen. You with your fancy Boston job and your perfect life. Do you have any idea how hard it is being a single mom, teaching screaming kids all day for a pathetic salary, then coming home to more responsibility? Don't I deserve something nice occasionally? Not at the expense of your daughter's future, I countered. If you needed money, you could have asked me directly. Instead, you've been systematically draining Mia's college fund for luxury items and vacations. And worse, you've been lying to her about it, making her believe she can't afford to apply to good schools. Brooke crossed her arms defensively. Mia will be fine. She can get student loans like everyone else. Why should she get a free ride when I had to struggle? Besides, she benefited from those trips too. I stared at my sister in disbelief. Trips she didn't even want to take. Mia has been working toward medical school since she was 12. That money wasn't a free ride, it was an investment in her future, in her dreams. Dreams you've now put in jeopardy. Oh, please. Brooke rolled her eyes dramatically. Stop being so dramatic. Community college is a perfectly reasonable option. Not everyone needs to attend some elite university to be successful. This isn't about elitism, I insisted, struggling to keep my temper in check. This is about honoring Mia's hard work and potential. This is about you stealing money that wasn't yours to take. I am her mother, Brooke shouted, slamming her hand on the counter. I know what's best for her, not you. You swoop in from Boston a few times a year, thinking you can buy her love with your money and big promises. This isn't about buying love, I said, my voice dropping dangerously low. This is about keeping promises, something you clearly know nothing about. It's none of your business what I do with my daughter. Brooke screamed, her face contorted with rage. You're not her mother. You have no right to judge how I raise her or what I spend money on. The kitchen fell silent after her outburst, the only sound the ticking of the wall clock, a housewarming gift I'd given them years ago. You're right about one thing. I finally said, my voice steady. I'm not her mother, but I made a promise to her, and I intend to keep it with or without your help. What's that supposed to mean? Brooke asked, suddenly wary. It means I'm going to find a way to fix this. Mia deserves better than having her future stolen by the person who should be protecting it. Are you threatening me? Brooke's voice took on a panicked edge. I'm stating facts. That money was legally designated for Mia's education. You misappropriated it. That's fraud, Brooke. Her face paled. You wouldn't report your own sister to the police? I don't want to, I admitted truthfully. But I will do whatever it takes to make this right for Mia. Get out of my house, Brooke hissed, pointing toward the door. Get out now before I say something I'll regret. Gladly, I replied, gathering my laptop and the bank statements. But this conversation isn't over, not by a long shot. I collected my overnight bag from the guest room and left without another word, the front door slamming behind me. Sitting in my car, I felt the full weight of what had just happened. My relationship with my sister might be irreparably damaged, but I couldn't let Mia's future be the casualty of Brooke's selfishness. I checked into the hotel Brooke had originally suggested, now understanding why she hadn't wanted me staying in the house. She must have feared exactly what had happened, that I would discover her deception. As I sat on the edge of the hotel bed, I made a call to Mia's school, arranging to pick her up early. We needed to talk, and it couldn't wait until the end of the school day. The high school parking lot was quiet when I arrived at 1:30, most students still in classes. I signed in at the front office, explained I was Mia's aunt, and needed to pick her up for a family matter. The secretary gave me a sympathetic nod, perhaps noticing my distressed appearance, and called Mia's classroom. 5 minutes later, Mia appeared, her backpack slung over one shoulder, concern etched on her face. Aunt Clara, is everything okay? Is Mom all right? Everyone's fine, sweetheart, I assured her, guiding her toward my car. I just thought we should have that talk sooner rather than later. How about we go to that cafe you like by the bookstore? 20 minutes later, we sat in a quiet corner of Millfield Books and Brew, steaming mugs of hot chocolate between us. Mia had always loved this place, with its floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and cozy reading nooks. It seemed the right setting for a difficult conversation. Mia, I began carefully, I need to ask you something important, and I need you to be completely honest with me. What has your mom told you about your college fund? About the money I've been setting aside for your education? Mia stared into her mug, avoiding my eyes. Mom said there were complications with the account, that the market hadn't performed well and there wasn't as much as you thought there would be. My heart sank. More lies. And when did she tell you this? Last summer, Mia replied, fidgeting with her napkin. Right before we were supposed to start visiting schools. She said we needed to adjust our expectations. What about the college prep course I paid for, the one with the Princeton graduates who help with applications and essays? Mia looked surprised. I didn't know you paid for that. Mom said we couldn't afford it. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my rising anger toward Brooke. What about the schools you wanted to apply to Harvard, Johns Hopkins, Columbia? The ones with the strong pre-med programs? Tears welled in Mia's eyes. Mom said there was no point in applying to schools we couldn't afford. She said it would just be setting myself up for disappointment when I got accepted, but couldn't go. A tear slipped down her cheek. I was so upset. I'd been working toward those schools since freshman year. I reached across the table and took her hand. Mia, I need you to know something. The money was there. I deposited $60,000 into that account over the last 3 years. Her eyes widened in shock. 60,000? But Mom said there was barely enough for community college. Your mother hasn't been honest with you, I said gently. Or with me. The money I set aside for your education has been misused. Misused how? Mia asked, though the dawning comprehension in her eyes suggested she was already connecting the dots. The trips to Hawaii and Florida, the Caribbean cruise, the new furniture and kitchen renovation, the new SUV. I paused, watching the information sink in. Your mother has been using your college fund for these expenses. Mia sat in stunned silence for several long moments. The trips I didn't even want to go on, she finally whispered. I wanted to stay home and work on my research project, but Mom insisted we needed family time. Did you enjoy those trips at all? I asked, curious about how Brooke had justified these expenditures to her daughter. They were okay, I guess. Mom spent most of the time taking pictures for social media. Mia's voice cracked. While I was there worrying about how I was going to afford community college, thinking my dreams of medical school were over. The betrayal in her voice broke my heart. Mia, I want you to know that I'm going to fix this. I made you a promise, and I intend to keep it. It's not too late. But it is too late, she protested, wiping away tears. The application deadlines for all the good schools have passed. I haven't even taken the subject tests some of them require. There are still options, I assured her. Some schools have rolling admissions, others have later deadlines, and there are always gap year programs that would strengthen your application for next year. You'd still help me? She asked in a small voice. Even after all this? Of course I would, I said firmly. None of this is your fault, Mia. Your mother's actions don't change my commitment to you. What about Mom? Mia asked, her voice suddenly anxious. What will happen to her? Will she get in trouble? The question revealed so much about Mia's character that even in her own devastation, she worried about her mother's well-being. In that moment, she reminded me so much of my own mother, always putting others first. That depends partly on your mom, I said truthfully, on whether she's willing to acknowledge what she did and make amends. She's been different lately, Mia confessed. More concerned with appearances, with having nice things. Ever since Grandma and Grandpa died, really. It's like she's trying to fill something missing inside her. Her insight was remarkable for someone so young, and it gave me pause. Was Brooke's spending spree a misguided attempt to cope with our parents' death? It didn't excuse her actions, but it might help explain them. What happens now? Mia asked, looking lost. Now we make a plan, I said decisively. First, I'm going to set up a new account, one that only I can access, to restart your college fund. Second, we're going to meet with a college counselor I know who specializes in helping students with unusual circumstances. And third, I need to have another conversation with your mother. Will you and Mom be okay? The worry in her voice was palpable. I don't know, I answered honestly. What she did was a serious breach of trust, but she's still my sister and I still love her. We'll find a way forward somehow. Can I stay with you tonight? Mia asked suddenly. At your hotel, I don't think I can face Mom right now without saying something I'll regret. Of course you can, I agreed, relieved she had suggested it. "We'll pick up some clothes for you, and I'll let your mother know you're staying with me." As we left the cafe, I put my arm around Mia's shoulders, feeling her lean into me for support. Despite the circumstances, I felt a renewed determination. I couldn't change what Brooke had done, but I could still ensure that Mia's future wasn't compromised by her mother's poor decisions. That evening in my hotel room, Mia and I researched colleges with later deadlines and programs that might still accept her. For the first time in months, I saw genuine hope return to her eyes, and I silently renewed my promise to make things right, whatever it took. The following morning, after ensuring Mia got to school safely, I contacted my financial advisor colleague, James Wu. James had helped me establish Mia's education fund initially, and was horrified to learn what had happened. "This is clear financial misconduct," he stated firmly over the phone. Since Brooke was a co-trustee on the account, she had legal access, but the designation as an education fund means she breached fiduciary duty by using it for personal expenses. "What can we do at this point?" I asked, pacing my hotel room. "First, freeze what remains in the account immediately, which I can help you with today. Second, establish a new fund under different terms, perhaps a 529 plan, that would offer tax advantages while restricting withdrawals more stringently." "And what about recovering the misappropriated funds?" I pressed. James hesitated. "That's trickier. You could pursue civil action against your sister, but given the family relationship, you might consider a repayment agreement first. I'd recommend consulting with an attorney before proceeding." Fortunately, my college roommate Sophia had become a practicing attorney specializing in financial matters. I called her next, explaining the situation as concisely as I could. "Clara, I'm so sorry this happened," Sophia said sympathetically. "From a legal standpoint, you have several options, none of them particularly pleasant given that this is your sister." She outlined possible approaches from a formal demand letter to small claims court to potentially filing a police report for financial fraud. The latter option felt extreme, but Sophia emphasized that the amount involved $60,000 was significant. "Think of it this way," she suggested. "If a stranger had stolen this money from Mia's future, would you hesitate to report it? Sometimes family members exploit our reluctance to hold them accountable." After these conversations, I contacted a college admissions counselor named Dr. Renee Martinez, whom I'd met at a financial planning seminar in Boston. Dr. Martinez specialized in helping students with complicated situations and had connections at numerous universities. "Mid-March is certainly late in the application cycle," she acknowledged when I explained Mia's situation. "But not impossible, especially for a student with Mia's qualifications. Some selective schools still have spots available, and others offer conditional acceptance programs. Let's set up a meeting with Mia as soon as possible to review her options." Armed with professional advice and a developing action plan, I felt ready to face Brooke again. I texted her asking to meet at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown, rather than her house. Her response came hours later, a terse, "Fine, 4 p.m." While waiting for our meeting, I implemented the first phase of my plan, working with James to freeze the remaining funds in the compromised account and initiate paperwork for a new 529 plan solely in my name, with Mia as the beneficiary. I made an initial deposit of $10,000 from my personal savings, a stopgap measure until a more comprehensive solution could be arranged. I arrived at the coffee shop early, selecting a table in the corner that would afford us privacy for what would inevitably be a difficult conversation. Brooke arrived precisely at 4, her expression a mixture of defiance and apprehension. She ordered nothing, simply sitting across from me with arms crossed defensively. "Mia knows everything?" I began without preamble. "About the fund, about how you misused it, about how you lied to her regarding college applications." Brooke flinched, but remained silent. "I've frozen what remains of the original account," I continued, "and I've started a new fund that you won't have access to. I've also consulted with a financial advisor and an attorney regarding the misappropriated funds. Are you going to sue your own sister?" Brooke finally spoke, her voice a mixture of disbelief and anger. "I don't want to," I replied honestly, "but I am prepared to do whatever necessary to make this right for Mia." The question is whether you're willing to be part of the solution, or if you'll force me to take more drastic measures. What do you want from me, Clara? She sounded tired suddenly. I can't magically replace $60,000 on my salary. I want 3 things, I said, sliding a folder across the table. First, a signed acknowledgement of what you did, and a formal repayment agreement, even if it's a small amount monthly over many years. And second, she asked warily, mandatory financial counseling. This behavior pattern didn't start with Mia's fund, and it won't end there unless you address the underlying issues. Brooke's eyes narrowed. You think I need therapy because I wanted nice things for once in my life? I think you need help because you stole your daughter's future to fund a lifestyle you can't afford, I countered. That's not normal behavior, Brooke. It's not healthy. Fine, she snapped. What's the third thing? You need to apologize to Mia and support her college applications wherever she decides to apply. No more discouragement, no more lies about what's financially possible. Brooke stared at the table for a long moment. And if I agree to these terms, you won't pursue legal action. As long as you comply with the repayment plan and counseling, no. And what about Mia? Is she ever going to forgive me? The vulnerability in her voice reminded me that beneath the defensiveness was my little sister, the one I'd promised our parents I would always look out for. Mia loves you, I said gently. She's hurt and confused right now, but with time and genuine effort on your part, I believe your relationship can heal. Brooke's composure finally cracked tears spilling down her cheeks. I never meant to hurt her. It started with just one withdrawal for Tommy's school trip that I couldn't afford. Then the kitchen needed repairs, and it seemed easier to upgrade everything instead of just fixing the broken parts. Then one thing led to another, and suddenly I was in so deep, I couldn't see a way out. Why didn't you just ask me for help? I questioned, passing her a napkin. Because you've always been the perfect one, she admitted, wiping her eyes. The responsible sister who does everything right. I was tired of being the screw-up, always needing rescue. I wanted to prove I could give my kids nice things too, like you can. By stealing from them, I couldn't keep the incredulity from my voice. I know it sounds crazy now, she whispered. But it made sense at the time, like I was just borrowing the money, like I'd figure out a way to replace it before Mia needed it. Then it spiraled out of control. I sighed, recognizing the patterns of justification common in financial impropriety cases I'd seen professionally. The financial counseling will help with that, Brooke, but you need to be honest with yourself about what happened here. After a long silence, she nodded, reaching for the folder. I'll sign your agreement, and I'll do the counseling, and I'll apologize to Mia, though I don't know if she'll accept it. That's her choice to make, I acknowledged, just as it's your choice how to move forward from here. 2 days later, with the formal agreement signed and notarized, I arranged a family meeting with Brooke, Mia, and myself at the office of a family therapist. The session was painful but necessary, with Brooke tearfully confessing her actions and the deep insecurities that had driven them. Mia remained mostly silent, listening intently, only asking occasional clarifying questions. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, Brooke concluded, looking directly at her daughter for perhaps the first time in months. But I want you to know I'm going to make this right however long it takes. As we were leaving, Mia pulled me aside. I want to move forward with college applications, she said decisively. I don't want to waste any more time. That's my girl, I replied, hugging her tightly. Over the next weeks, working remotely from my hometown, instead of returning to Boston immediately, I helped Mia navigate late applications to several schools with rolling admissions policies. Dr. Martinez proved invaluable, helping secure extensions for Mia based on her exceptional academic record and the unusual circumstances. I also had to confront my own role in enabling Brooke's financial dependence over the years. By always being the rescuer, the one who solved problems with money, had I inadvertently contributed to her unhealthy relationship with finances. The family therapy sessions we continued weekly helped me recognize patterns I hadn't seen before, ways I had sometimes undermined Brooke's autonomy in my eagerness to help. It wasn't easy rebuilding trust within our fractured family. Brooke began financial counseling and took on extra tutoring work to begin modest repayments toward the misappropriated funds. Mia struggled with feelings of betrayal, but remained focused on her academic goals. I adjusted my work schedule to spend more time in my hometown during this critical period, serving as a bridge between mother and daughter as they slowly reconstructed their relationship. Through it all, I held on to the promise I'd made, that moonlit night in my parents' bedroom. Mia would have her chance at the future she deserved. It might come through a different path than originally planned, but the destination remained the same. 6 months later, on a crisp September morning, I stood in the dormitory room at the State University of New York, helping Mia arrange her textbooks on a shelf above her desk. Against significant odds, she had been accepted to their honors pre-med program with a partial scholarship. Between the new fund I had established, additional scholarships she'd earned, and student loans, her undergraduate education was secured. "What do you think, Aunt Clara?" she asked, gesturing around the modest but comfortable room. "Not exactly Harvard, but it feels right, doesn't it?" "It feels perfect," I assured her, adjusting a framed family photo on her desk. The picture had been taken just 2 weeks earlier at our first normal family dinner since the confrontation. Brooke stood beside Mia, both smiling cautiously but genuinely. Tommy was pulling a silly face in front, while I stood slightly behind a protective presence, still but no longer the sole supporter. "Mom's doing better," Mia commented, following my gaze to the photo. "The counseling seems to be helping." It was true. Brooke had committed to her financial therapy with surprising dedication, working through the emotional issues that had fueled her spending addiction. She had sold many of the luxury items purchased with the misappropriated funds, using the proceeds to begin replenishing Mia's education account. The new SUV had been exchanged for a reliable used car, and the planned European vacation canceled. More importantly, she had gradually stopped defining her worth through material possessions and social media approval. The transformation wasn't complete, and there were still occasional setbacks, but the progress was undeniable. "She's trying," I agreed, "and that matters." "I'm still angry sometimes," Mia admitted, sitting on the edge of her new bed. "When I think about the opportunities I might have had, the schools I might have gotten into if I'd applied earlier with better preparation." "That's completely understandable," I said, joining her on the bed. "What your mom did was wrong, and it had real consequences for your future." "But then I think about something you said during one of our family therapy sessions," she continued thoughtfully, "about how healing doesn't mean forgetting the hurt, but choosing not to let it define your future." I smiled, recognizing my own words. "Wise beyond your years as always." "I don't think I could have gotten through this without you," Mia said, leaning against my shoulder like she used to do as a little girl. "Not just the money, but the way you fought for me, the way you showed me that someone believed in my dreams, even when they seemed impossible." "Your dreams were never impossible, Mia. Delayed, perhaps, challenged, certainly, but never impossible." I put my arm around her shoulders. "And this is just the beginning. You're exactly where you're supposed to be right now, taking the first steps toward becoming Dr. Mia Bennett." She laughed at that, the sound lighter than I'd heard in months. "One step at a time. First, I need to pass Biology 101. "You will," I assured her. "And everything that comes after." Later that afternoon, after helping Mia settle in and meeting her roommate, I found myself alone in my car in the university parking lot. Emotion welled up unexpectedly as I realized this milestone had almost been stolen not just from Mia but from all of us. The past 6 months had been among the most challenging of my life, navigating the complex aftermath of Brooke's betrayal, while trying to salvage Mia's educational opportunities and our family relationships. There had been moments I questioned whether the damage could ever be repaired, whether trust once broken could truly be restored. Yet here we were. Not perfectly healed, but healing. Not exactly according to plan, but moving forward nonetheless. The experience had taught me painful but valuable lessons about family dynamics, about the dangers of enabling destructive behaviors, even with the best intentions. I had learned that sometimes love requires setting firm boundaries, rather than always offering a safety net. That accountability and consequences can coexist with compassion and forgiveness. Most importantly, I had learned that family bonds, while sometimes stretched to breaking point by betrayal, have a remarkable capacity for resilience when all parties commit to honest communication and genuine change. As I started my car to begin the drive back home, I reflected on how differently this story might have ended had I not discovered the truth, had I not been willing to confront the uncomfortable reality of my sister's actions. Mia might have abandoned her dreams, settling for less than she deserved. Brooke might have continued her destructive financial patterns until they eventually collapsed around her. Our family might have fractured beyond repair. Instead, we had found a path forward challenging, but ultimately hopeful. Mia was embarking on her college journey with renewed determination. Brooke was confronting her demons with professional help. And I was learning to support without enabling, to love without rescuing. The road ahead would not be without obstacles. Brooke's recovery would likely include setbacks. The financial repayment would take years, possibly decades. Mia's path to medical school remained challenging, but we would face these challenges together with honesty and mutual respect that had been missing before. In the end, I realized that the true education fund was not just the money I had set aside for Mia's college tuition. It was also the hard-won lessons about trust, accountability, and forgiveness that would serve our family for generations to come. Have you ever had to confront a family member about a betrayal? How did you balance justice with compassion? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe to hear more real-life experiences. And remember, sometimes the bravest thing we can do is speak difficult truths to those we love the most. Thank you for listening to my story, and I wish you courage in your own family journeys.